Alright, so many of the places that I've been, people offer to help, and when I get there, I end up being the one doing all the helping. Well, they throw temper tantrums and scream and argue pretty much the whole time. And it takes me a while to recover from that. But they scream a lot. Meanwhile, I'm not allowed to because I'm stuck in a subservient position. With Bobby Forrest, this is a friend of Alicia's and a friend of Natalie's. He's not in a great way himself. I showed him some videos of just one of the places that I stayed at. Just one. And he thinks it's crazy. I agree. People are like, why would you put yourself in that position? Well, here's the thing. I didn't know that position was going to be like that when I got there. I went there out of desperation. I went there because I needed to believe that someone out there would help me. The problem is, I needed what I had in Chapel, Nebraska just before Natalie died. Although it's not the best place to be as far as when you have social issues and you need to socialize. You need to have positive experiences with people. The fact is, it would have been the perfect environment for me to fight this. For me to sit down, do what I need to do, and just be left alone while I do it. I had internet there. I had an income there. I had a roof over my head there. And believe it or not, my neighbors were all reasonably quiet. Nobody ever came to my door to bug me. I didn't have to listen to people telling me their rules when their rules are to tell me that I can't do the things that I need to do. And that's verified by the lawyer that I spoke to while I was in Washington State. I recorded that. He talks about the things that I need to do in order to be able to defend myself in court and for him to defend me in court. It's all stuff I've been trying to do. It's all stuff that I've been working on. And it's all stuff that people tell me they'll work on, and once I get there, the rules change. They all got their own excuses. With Bobby, he tells me about his problems, and I worry about him. I really do. He's going through some of the same stuff as me. I just found a whistle. I'm over here at the Temple Free Will Baptist Church again. I've made quite a few videos that are unlisted and a couple that are private. That's because I don't want them getting destroyed or removed. I should have never had to go public with any of it, but once it became public because of the news, it became an impossibility to get an honest court date without the right environment. And no matter what, I don't get that environment. See, in Chapel, Nebraska, in that low-income apartment number 107 on Hilltop, I didn't have to listen to Lana screaming at me, Lana being mad because I'm not buying Brad's car, Lana talking non-stop about fucking earthquakes, and Amanda watching Game of Thrones. I wasn't getting yelled at if I played video games to calm down. Really, that place in Chapel, Nebraska would have been perfect if I'd had just one friend who was positive. But they weren't, and it made it difficult to see them. Laura found it difficult to be positive. Aunt B found it difficult to be positive. Uncle D was busy being a jerk. Not my decisions. I really needed their help. And that's the thing. I waste all of my resources trying to get exactly what I had just 2 months prior to Natalie's death. Just prior to Ken and Leah stealing all my money. See, I moved out of Chapel, Nebraska in October of 2017. After that, that's when Ken and Leah stole my money. and it was difficult, and I had to scrape to get by, and they needed more and more and more and more. And Sean, do this, and Sean, do that, and Sean, if you buy this, then we'll get it for you. And then I buy those things, and what happens? I didn't get them. Ken was gonna go get himself $100 worth of weed. I gave him $100 to get me $100 worth of weed. And they smoked it all without me. They didn't spend their money on it, they spent my money on it and didn't share it with me. Meanwhile, the only reason I'm smoking weed there is because, well, I'm stressed the fuck out because I need my disability money back, the money that Ken and Leah took. And I have to deal with Leah, who is the most self-absorbed person that I'd met in a while. I was stuck in a subservient position, and I have been ever since. A lot of people are angry because they didn't want me to show their business. Well, I didn't want to show their business. They should have come forward and should have forced the courts to take a look. Should have forced the courts to listen. Instead of shrugging it off because it wasn't their rights that were violated. Meanwhile, when they tried to make a police report, their rights were violated. The police put myself, Mandy Hughes, many of my other friends and family in danger by not taking Mandy Hughes' report, by not taking a report from Dan Faber, by not taking a report from Miss Peaches. Now the other thing is being dismissive. When I went to try to get help with this situation before Natalie died, Miss Peaches was dismissive, telling me how to think and how to feel and snapping at me for trying to speak. So I'm too afraid to speak. Same thing with Bear. Same thing with a lot of people. Because if I try to speak, they want to give their ideas and their opinions of the situation, and they haven't even listened to what's going on in the situation. They're just judging. So I jump through the hoops that they ask me to, hoping that they're going to help how they promised, how I need. And when they don't keep their word, I'm a terrible person for saying it. When the environment is abusive, I'm a terrible person for saying it. I'm a terrible person for showing it. I'm evil for some odd reason for showing other people's business. But then again, I'm showing the truth, whereas the news media only showed slander. And the police refuse to look at anything that doesn't come from the Bollinger side. Anything that doesn't protect them of their own wrongdoing. And that's why the police and the courts are as heavily invested in framing me as anyone else. Most of these folks, there's not going to be any consequences for their shitty environments. Not from the police and not from the courts. So what is it that they're so afraid of coming forward about? Because see, if you don't come forward, I'm going to. I am going to. And that's plain and simple. I spoke out. And just because people wouldn't take a look doesn't mean that that evidence doesn't exist. That evidence of what was going on at Ray Ann Ingersoll's, that evidence still exists. The evidence with Amy Spencer still exists. The evidence with Shannon Alvarado's still exists. And the evidence of Katie Cahill still exists. The evidence of Candace Bondurant still exists. You guys don't like how I reacted? Well, that's fine. I don't like how they reacted. And that's fine too. These people say you shouldn't care what other people think, and then you see how they react because they're afraid of what other people think. Why? Because of what people might do over what they think. But I have to just let it go. Intelligent, is it not? If you don't look, does that mean it didn't happen? I told you this is what would happen. That the police would refuse to take a look. And if they don't take a look, they can pretend it didn't happen. And they had plenty of motive for doing so.